Yep, you love to see it. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We're back at it. We finally had some basketball. Thank God. Game one of the NBA Finals in the books. We're going to talk about that. Weisberg's going to join us in a hot minute. Couple of things quickly. We get to do some business up top, okay? Our F1 show is going to be back here at 3 p.m. Eastern today, right? We're going to talk a little vroom vroom, a lot of drama in the F1 street. So that's going to be back a little bit later today at 3 o'clock. We might fire up a happy hour this afternoon too. Maybe after that, maybe do some best ball drafts, maybe talk some WNBA because I am in the underdog WNBA drafting streets. Had a successful night one last night, so that was fun. That is the action for the rest of today, and then on Sunday we'll be back with game two. Game two of the NBA Finals will be right here on playback, which is very, very exciting. I think that's it for business. I don't think we have too much more. Our guy Weisberg is going to join us here in a second. I like that. Shout out playback. They fucked around with the spotlight. Like we can just take the spotlight away quickly. I think if Weisberg joins, it won't. I think I won't stay so big. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out in a second. Yeah, look at that. Immediately adjusted. That's great. It also makes Weisberg look bigger too, which is good. What's
That's
going on, man?
it's always nice just to get a little bit bigger there. I'm good,
Nice.
man. I'm good. Man, what a night last night. First off, before we even get into the game, how was your night last night? How was the show? You do okay?
Yeah, it was good. I rifled through it. I ended it by exactly 8:30, so I had a second to get a bite to eat. I ended up watching the first half at the location, and then missed a little bit of the third quarter. So I saw it was good. I got to panic just by looking at my phone, watching the score change. And then by the time I actually got into our apartment, they had already it was like right when the lead went from 8 back up to like 18 or whatever it was.
Mm,
So it
14-0
was
run.
good. Yeah, so that was good. But yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time and it was fun. Again, it was just like nice to have basketball back. I know this was kind of a weird game, just like right out the gate. Shout out those Bill Walton shirts, by the way. That was
Those
awesome.
were all, and the pins. The pins are
Yeah.
great too. Like Celtics did a really nice job pregame. And let's just start there. The KP coming through the tunnel thing last night. I don't know if you saw this. And we can
Yeah.
grab it. I think NBA Twitter might have it directly, but
I can look it up while you talk about it.
it was pretty crazy. So like KP does not come out with a team. There were little questions pregame about the fact that he was coming off the bench. Joe Mazzulla said Porzingis doesn't have a minutes restriction. Only played 20 minutes last night. But man, were those 20 minutes impactful. But he comes out through the tunnel and the crowd goes fucking nuts. Like
Yeah.
you could just kind of hear it. Like watching the clip, you just hear like this buzz and it comes and it raises and it raises. And then he gets on the floor and they lose it. And then, 3 minutes in, he jumps into the game and the impact was immediate. They're running him every way that they had the entire year. It was, hey, we want to run him off pick and rolls, take advantage of mismatches. Cool, we'll do that on Kyrie. We want to do a ghost screen, pick and pop into a three. Cool, we'll do that. We're going to have Tatum commit one of his 6 turnovers last night.
Yeah, that was
And
tough.
then KP comes back on the backside with an insane block. Like, he dominated the first 10 minutes in a way that I think was a little surprising, given he hadn't played an NBA game, let alone an NBA Finals game,
Yeah, I mean,
in a month and a half.
I can't find that clip. I thought I'd be able to do it a little bit faster.
Fine.
Yeah, I mean, it was such like a shot of adrenaline, right? There was a lot of back and forth in those first few minutes where like Al knocks down a shot. I think they started were they like one for 9 or like 2 for 9, something like that. They had taken so many threes in the first few minutes of the game. There were so many offensive rebounds, so it looked like they had taken 25 more shots than Dallas, but it was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of like, I think it was like 17-15, 18-17, and then something like that. And then Porzingis checks in, and it truly was just like a shot of adrenaline. And it was probably like a big sigh of relief for a lot of Boston fans just seeing how healthy he was. And I mean, if you were to script Porzingis first game back, whether it was in the finals or whenever, right? Like coming back from injury, he played 20 minutes and then looked just spry on both sides of the ball, whether it was stretching the floor, knocking down that 29-footer, whether it was down or hitting those great, like just using his size on those little jumpers, which look like there's so much. They like in real time, those jumpers look so difficult. And then you look and it's like, well, yeah, maybe he's positioned a little funny, but he's got 8 inches on the guy. So it's not going to matter. And then, I mean, the blocks on the other end, that Josh Green trying to throw it down and Porzingis just sending it back. I mean, I had to watch that a couple of times. It's like, how did they not call a foul there? And then you see the replay and you're like, no, that was clean. So, I mean, that truly, I thought Porzingis was going to be healthier than everybody was saying. I was like, it just seems like he's good to go based on all the dialogue. And I thought they were playing coy a little bit. The biggest concern was conditioning. But I still did not expect him to come out and just flash like that. It was crazy. Wait, Keith, Weisberg, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're good. I wouldn't let you vamp for that long without being able to hear you.
Thank you.
You know, we are professionals. We know what we're doing here, guys.
Yeah.
Keith, what I would do is just reload, as Maticotto says. So that part of it, I think, was compelling. I think part of the issue here for Dallas is a math problem. And we talked about this in our preview show. Was that Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah,
all blends together. The Mavs only shot 1 for 3 on corner threes.
Yeah, 1 for 3, and one of those threes was that grenade Kyrie where he hits the side of the backboard. Like, right. So that was a problem. Also, I mean, like, and again, Dallas isn't going to do this again. Like, I would not expect this again. But in the attack mode was like, let's get Al Horford, right?
Al was great.
Al was great. They went 1 for 13 when attacking Al. 1 for 13. And I mean, like, right, that is the matchup to attack. That makes sense. But when I just think this is a different roster than what Dallas has faced so far in the playoffs, in the way that there's just no real like weak links to go at. And again, they won't go 1 for 13 against Al. The craziest thing, Sam Hauser checks in, right, for the first time, and not only does he knock down a couple of shots, so like Luka sees Sam Hauser, they're like, all right, we got to go get Sammy.
Target him.
And then he makes two consecutive stops on Luka, just
including a steal.
Yeah. So I don't think we see Dallas play like this again. But I agree with you that the adjustments that they have to make, it's not like their best players need to play better. They just strategically have to make some adjustments. And this comes down to Kidd and the way that they defend and attack offensively. Like, they're going to have to make some adjustments.
You see what Drew Holiday said post-game about Hauser and Pritchard?
He said even their white guys defended.
It's great. Yeah, even our white guys can guard. It's pretty great. Look, man, I think that is, what they basically did defensively was simple. They were like, hey, we were happy letting Luka funnel one to the middle. If he wants to hit his floaters or get to the paint and hit a layup, fine. We will concede that. We will not concede the corners. And we will, as I said in our pre-show on Tuesday, they shut off the water on Kyrie, man. Mike Gorman said today on 98.5 this morning on their morning show, Kyrie got into it with a fan. I didn't see this.
Oh, I missed that too.
But apparently he got into it with a fan last night. I have to listen to Gorman for the details because I literally just saw the headline as we were coming on.
I know, and Keith's saying in the chat too that Kyrie needs to play better. Yeah, what was it, like 6 for 19? Is that what the line was from Kyrie? I think it was something. It was
like louder than that though.
0 for 5 from 3, 12 points, 12 points, a few turnovers, a couple boards and assists. Yeah, I did think like he was moving well defensively. Like I thought he was okay on that end. But yeah, like he didn't get anything going. But again, I don't think this is a Kyrie series. I just don't. I think they have, like, again, Kyrie is good enough to still, drop a 28-point game or something in this. But the Celtics just have enough guys to throw at him that I just don't know if this is the time that he pops. I think, like, if I'm Dallas, the one thing they need to focus on, and I can't believe we've gone like 10 minutes without talking about how awesome Jaylen Brown was last night.
Yes.
So Jaylen Brown, 37 minutes, right? He only took 12 shots. He went 7 for 12 from the field, 22.6 boards. He had 3 steals, 3 blocks. And Luka got 30, but that was like a Zach LaVine 30. Where like of course, like you know what I mean? Like it wasn't the 30 that just like breaks down the defense. It was just kind of like, yeah, everything was tough for him. And I think like if I'm Dallas going into game two, they have to make Jalen work even harder. I'd be putting him in the post a little bit more and just trying to get him into foul trouble, because if JB is the main defender on Luka and he only had 3 personal fouls, you're doing it wrong.
Well, a couple things there, Mike. To your point, Jalen was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like calling a spade. Defensively, did the job on Luka, which is probably the hardest assignment in basketball outside of Jokic. Like just in terms of the measure of your assignment and what you actually have to do defensively. Jalen was phenomenal. The 3 blocks and 3 steals really stood out. Like he had 2 blocks on 1 possession last night. And offensively, he was able to get to his spots. They went to him in the mid post. He had threes. It was like an interesting offensive set for them. One thing I will say, just from a Celtics offensive perspective, the difficulty for the Mavs is made harder because they were doubling Tatum up top.
Yeah.
Tatum was smart. He was getting the ball out despite the turnovers, and that's what caused some of those early turnovers for him. He wasn't expecting those early doubles. But what it does is it allowed the Celtics to get early shot clock threes. And because they had to come back and recover, the Celtics were able to get easy offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
And against a team like the Celtics, you can't give that force multiplier of being able to get offensive boards, because they're just gonna hit threes. This is all they do.
And I think too, like one of the areas defensively that they're going to have to get better, and this is really on Luka and Kyrie, I think more than anybody. Although I saw it happen to PJ a couple of times there, and I don't have the number in front of me, but their blow by numbers were very bad, and that is what, like, I know Tatum did not have a good game. I know he finished with a double-double. He had 16 points, 11 boards, 5 dimes, 6 turnovers.
At the end. He was in there late.
Yeah, he played too many minutes. I think they were just trying to get him out, like get him into a rhythm with 42 minutes, right? I do think like one thing Tatum did really well was he was blowing by, like he was moving right by people, and then he seemed like he was finding people for wide open shots. Had a couple of like questionable decisions in the first half after he was like getting by the initial defender, but that's how the ball starts moving for Boston. If you're able to get by that initial defender, now they're scrambling, trying to rotate and recover, and the Celtics are whipping the ball around, and then they're taking one of their 4,000 threes that they took a game. And so I think like if you're Dallas, you're like, listen, man, like Kyrie had a bad game. We didn't really get anything from anyone else. They learned that Gafford's probably, like you said, you called this out. He only played 14 minutes. Maxi Kleber out-minuted him. So did Lively. And I think you're going to be like, listen, we'll have somebody else will step up. Kyrie will do better. And then the Celtics, man, not only did they knock down, they went 16 for 42 from 3. And almost all of those came in the first quarter. I think they finished 7 for 14 in the first. And so they were like pretty average from 3 the rest of the way out of the first quarter. But to get hit with that barrage in game 1 of the final, it's like hard to recover from that.
So one of the things that I think Dallas can change, I haven't reviewed the game film. Woke up this morning, immediately DM Mike. I was like, can we do a quick recap show? Yeah. But what I will say is I think what the Mavs need to do is set some of those screens higher on Jalen, and maybe do some of what they did against the Timberwolves, which is they would set these stagger screens to really get the primary defender off Luka. And that way maybe you can get to KP a little bit earlier. Yeah. Because what the Celtics did really smart is KP did guard Luka a little bit, but even in situations where he was going to, the Celtics recognized it and not traditional scram switch, but they switched out of it.
Yeah.
They basically pre-switched. So they were pretty adamant about being like, look, we know where our matchups are favorable and we know where they're not. Mm-hmm. And I think for the Mavs, this is about how you get to that matchup. And I think particularly with Luka and trying to play make and try to get to those corner threes, taking advantage of KP in those minutes, whether it's 20, 25, 30 minutes as we proceed in the series. Because I think this is going to be the lowest number for him all series, right?
Right. Absolutely. Like he's gonna just they're gonna continue to expand that. Yeah. I also thought it was pretty interesting that the Celtics played Luca pretty much straight up too. Like you saw
Mm,
very little doubling. They kind of were just like, we'll live and excuse me, we'll live and die with the matchups that we get with them, even on switches and stuff. So we'll see how they're able to react to that. But again, I mean, I wonder if we see like Luca just get down in the block a little bit more and be like, listen,
yep.
man, if you're gonna put JB on me this whole time, like yes, Jaylen Brown is a very capable defender, but Luca's just got size and body on him, and that's what I would do because I'm like, listen, man, and that will tire Luca out too. That's gonna make him tired on the other end, but as we get later into the game, but that to me seems like an advantage they have to isolate.
They targeted him defensively. I'll say
Yeah.
that. They wanted him quite a bit on switches. I thought Luke actually held up
Yeah.
pretty well defensively.
Yeah, I thought Luke
Um,
was solid. And I see Keith's point too. The Mavs playing the Celtics even after the first quarter with everyone having a below average game. I'm not worried. Yeah, I mean, I do think like if you're Dallas, you can be like, listen, man, we were drinking water through a fire hose in that first quarter with the way that they were chucking threes. And I agree. Like I think you'll get a PJ game, you'll get a Derrick Jones Jr. game at some point. Kyrie's not going to go like I don't think it's a Kyrie series, but he's not going to do that every game. But I do think like on the flip side of it, if you're Boston, like man, you're like we won this game with Jason Tatum having like a terrible game. Like again, I don't think you're going to get another 6 turnover game from Tatum. I don't think 16 points will be the least he scores the rest of this series. So I think the Celtics have to feel pretty good taking game 1 without having anybody go nuts.
yeah, I mean, look, PJ was 0 for 3. I'm looking at the box now. Kyrie 0 for 3 from 3. Luka was the only guy who was really hitting from 3. Derrick Jones Jr. had that early 3 early in the first quarter.
Hmm.
But other than that, he missed another 3. And then we had like Hardy and Green at some late threes. But other than that, 7 for 27, man. You're not going to win NBA games shooting 25% from 3.
No, I mean, I'm trying to do math in my head real quick, but that's a 27-point difference, right? Just in 3 points alone there, 3-point makes
Yep.
alone. And yeah, Keith Tucker, I can't believe I didn't even bring that up yet either. That Luka finished the game with 1 assist, which is nuts. Like, I feel like there was I don't think that's ever happened in his career. So that was pretty nuts to see him only. They think they finished the game with 9 assists, and the Celtics finished with 9 blocks.
9 assists on 35 makes.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big number and a good telltale sign for the Celtics defense. Otherwise, like, I felt overall from a game 1 perspective, did the job.
Hmm.
Job's not done. Got to win game 2 here. And you go up 2-0 heading to Dallas. Got to feel pretty good about where the series is.
Yeah, I
But,
mean, I think
for Sunday, I think the key here is, once again, funnel Luka as best you can, guard the corners, and I'll be intrigued to see how Kyrie bounces back.
Yeah, I think game 2 is going to be a dogfight. Like I would venture to guess. I mean, like it's what's kind of nuts. This game wasn't high scoring. Like, you know what I mean? It was 107-89. And I know maybe the Celtics get to like 118 if they don't pull starters when they did. But
Yep.
I feel like game 2 is going to be pretty physical. I think it slows down a little bit too, even though the Celtics don't want to slow down. And I mean, I guess neither does Dallas either. But I just imagine this being a couple possession game where people are hitting each other a little bit because Dallas got it. You can't go home down 0-2. You got to go. If you're trying. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to win the NBA Finals, you need to split these two. I know they have a great home court, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to go down 0-2.
Well, and the key here from the Mavs perspective is as long as you get the split,
Right.
you're in decent shape for the series.
Right.
But if you go down 2-0 heading back to Dallas, obviously a series doesn't start till you win on someone else's home floor. But the Celtics are undefeated on the road in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they kind of thrive off, they're boring. They have a very business-centric approach. It is
Mhm.
just like, we know what our problems are here. We're going to adjust some of the issues. And honestly, like outside of Tatum, did you feel like there were anything like structurally that like could pose an issue for game 2?
No, I mean they seemed very comfortable. I honestly, this is on Dallas making the structural adjustments. Boston seemed very comfortable. They were getting the shots that they wanted. They defended the way they wanted. I think if anything, Boston comes away from that feeling very, very good of just being. And they also did the classic Boston thing, but then stopped it. You know what I mean? Like on that third
Mm.
quarter run when Luka hits that three and all of a sudden it's an 8-point game. It's an 8-point game and Dallas has the ball again. And I was like, this is it, man. If they get this up to like a 3-point lead or a 2-point lead or whatever, you're gonna feel like, because then the whole crowd is gonna change. And for them to call that timeout, respond, go on this 14-0 run, like I thought that is what I wanted to see from Boston, because I'm just so used to, like, in that moment them, wiltering a little bit, and that didn't happen.
Said it during the broadcast. I was like, these are the times where the butt's starting to get a little bit tight.
Yeah.
Like you could feel the PTSD in the building. Like crowd got real silent. And the key there was you had back-to-back turnovers by Kyrie and Derek Lively.
Mhm.
Both travels, which when was the last time we saw multiple travels called in a game?
Yeah. I don't know.
In a finals, no less.
Is that what Keith's referring to? He said the refs came in clutch to stop the Mavs run?
Probably, yeah. Um, but it was I felt like once that happened, Tatum hits a three. I think I'd have to go back and look at the game now, but I think it was Tatum hits a three, and then I think Brown hits a layup. And then they just went on a 14-0 run. And that was the ball game at that point. Once you push the lead out to 16-17, not much that you could do. I will just note on some smaller stuff for the Celtics. Thought Peyton Pritchard played pretty well despite not scoring a ton. Defensively, he held up. Hauser, you mentioned earlier, played pretty well.
I mean, Hauser came out, he played 16 minutes, got 8 points. I mean, that he has been so cold for so long. That was nice to see.
Pritchard was 0 for 7. I don't think we'll see that the remainder of the series, but other than that, they didn't go into the bench. It was basically like an 8-man rotation. They didn't go to Cornette, Brissett, and Svi until the end of the game.
No, and I mean, that's what it should be. That is what it should be. Do you think they continue to just roll Porzingis out off the bench? Or do you think like eventually he moves back into the starting lineup?
Ooh, I wonder if they stick with it. Because they brought him in pretty early.
Yeah.
And Common Man was talking about this during the broadcast. Were you shocked at the amount of Green and Hardy minutes last night?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is the most common thing that everybody knows. It's like, oh yeah, when you get into the playoffs, you play less guys. And maybe they just felt like they didn't have any answers and they were overcorrecting after getting hit with that barrage of triples in the first, and they were like, "Oh, we got to go smaller. We got to be stretching a little bit more." Like you said, I expected less Gafford and a lot of Maxey. I expected a lot of Maxey, and then I expected Lively off the bench and then some Josh Green. But 11 minutes from Hardy. Also, shout out Jaden Hardy, who got up shots late. He just chucked
green light.
Yeah, dude, he's like Tim Hardaway Jr. just on steroids with the way those shots got up there. But yeah, I wonder if we see a tighter rotation in game 2. But I think that might have just been like overcorrecting.
They played 7 guys off the bench last night.
Yeah, I need to know, like, did Tim Hardaway Jr. get into the game before it got out of hand? Like, I'm not sure if all the
he had some early minutes.
Yeah.
He had 8 minutes total. He did play, I think, in the first half. Okay. And then let's see. I'm surprised that I felt like Exum should have gotten minutes for Green personally. I just think I thought the idea of Exum guarding on the perimeter could provide you some offensive punch. Just as an aside, because I'm seeing this in the chat on that LaMelo Ball go-karting thing, guys. It's a good way to get your contract canceled, bud. Like you just signed a $170 million deal. Don't get that contract canceled.
Dude, I saw a great tweet yesterday. There was I forget where it happened, but there was like a car hanging off the side of a roof. I don't know if it was like a parking garage or whatever. And somebody just saying LaMelo was driving around. That made me laugh. Yeah. Any other like big takeaways from this? I think I expect game 2 to be played a little bit differently, only because although I don't know, this is what the Celtics want to do. The Celtics want to chuck threes. Like they want to play fast. They want to do the blow bys and then find people in the corner. So maybe we do see more of this from them.
The one number that does stick out is that they played Luka straight up. I was listening to Low Post this morning. Guys, I was up early. And one of the things Wendy said today is the Celtics have played, roughly like 900 possessions straight up or something like that. They've only blitzed 11 times total.
Yeah.
Like, they're committed to their defensive process. And I think that's the thing that stands out the most when you're playing Luka is they're very, very committed. And like I said, I think there are changes the Mavs can make to make it a little bit easier on him, to make that 30 be a bit more efficient, have him be able to kick to the corners. They shot a lot of above the break threes, which is what the Celtics want. They give up somewhere around like 36% of their total threes are above the break threes,
right,
in terms of possession. So it's like they want you to take the difficult shots.
Yeah,
and they're like Mavs just need to get there.
And outside of Luka and Kyrie, PJ has shown us for a while now that's not the shot he wants to take. That's not the shot Derrick Jones Jr. wants to take. Luka can make a three from wherever, so can Kyrie. But if we're talking about the other role players, the other thing too, I had written this down. I believe they had 0 lobs last night.
Yeah. Oh, no, they had a couple. Well, they didn't make any lobs.
Right.
But they attempted some.
Right. But for a team that is, I was listening to the Hoop Collective, and they have had, heading into the finals, had 54 completed lob dunks, with the next highest being the Denver Nuggets with 9. And so like you obviously the corner threes and the lob dunks are how they have made their way through the Western Conference playoffs, and for them to go 1 for 3 from corner threes, with one of them being like a grenade at the end, and then like 0 completed lob dunks. I think the Celtics, and I think that's the Porzingis effect too. I think Porzingis had a lot to do with that, especially because his minutes were they were lined up a little bit more with Derek Lively because he was coming off the bench. And Tesla in the chat saying Zinger gave them a quick reminder what it's like to have a 7-footer in the paint. It's true.
Did you see the KP postgame thing last night?
No.
I'll grab it and I'll play it in chat real quick. Here we go. One sec.
While you do that too, I mentioned this yesterday, but recorded podcast with Catherine from Buckets and Tea on the Raptors Republic podcast feed, and that should be going. It was a lot of fun. That should be going live a little bit later this afternoon, so go check that out.
So this is KP post game, like not in the actual locker room. This is him walking in the tunnel with the Celtics media person.
Finals are pretty cool, huh?
What? Different. This is completely different than any other round, any other game. Man, so much like energy, so much joy. Love it. Absolutely love it.
He looks like the Bond villain that successfully killed Bond. Like he looks very happy, like he had just murked him. What's nuts about this is he plays 2 games in round 1, misses obviously the rest of the playoffs up until now. He had never played outside of round 1 before in his entire career.
Derek Lively's played more playoff games.
Yeah. Crazy. So that is cool. I mean, I know his problematic past, but
very problematic past.
That being noted, that was cool. That was cool. Yeah, I think this is going to be. I don't think we see another game like that where it's where we see garbage time. I think I imagine, unless Dallas shoots the lights out one time, I feel like we're going to have a tighter series because, like Keith said too, outside of the first quarter, this played pretty close the rest of the way. So I'm looking forward to Sunday.
Yeah, look, I feel pretty good about their process. I do think it'll be a closer series than just a blowout. But what I will say about game 2 is I think Tatum's going to play much, much better.
Yeah, for sure.
It was pretty noticeable up front. Like he had 3 turnovers within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So feel good. Feel great about my series bets. My series bets are.
Yeah, I was looking at that this morning. I saw that was. I mean, Great start, especially because the Luka assist number was so high. For him to only get one, that's pretty much a lock. Like he's going to have to average like 17 the rest of the way to make up for that. So that
The
is good.
Kyrie assist number is going to pump up a little bit.
Yeah,
I think what was it, like 4.5 on that one?
yeah,
Um,
easily.
Speaking of underdog, you got any underdog bets you want to maybe place for Sunday?
Uh, yeah, I guess we can look at it. Hold on, let me. Although I'm probably not going to do it on underdog because I just got IKB up right now.
That's fine. We can
So
look at IK.
we can go look at IKB here. After that too, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about the Dan Hurley shit too. But let's
Oh yeah, we can talk about that.
let's
That
go
is some
look.
interesting shit.
Yeah. All right. So Tatum's numbers come down to 26.5 now, which I think is pretty good. I think I just want to keep clicking rebounds on Tatum. I
Yep,
feel like,
click buttons there. That makes
huh?
sense. Yeah, I mean that's the right button to click.
Yeah.
Is Tatum boards?
I think he's
Hey,
gonna
do
keep.
we have a Tatum double that we can do?
No, I don't
No.
think so. We got Porzingis here. They took the points off the board here. I kind of like 20.5 points and rebounds, though. I like assuming he plays more than 20 minutes, you know?
We didn't have a 3 number for him.
Um, it's off the board. It'll probably go up to 2 soon.
Okay. Yeah, I think points and rebounds make sense. Although he's not a guy who's going to get a ton of boards, but he
No.
can get there.
Uh,
I thought Derek White didn't play phenomenal last night, relatively speaking. Could
no.
see a bounce back there.
All right. Luke is down to 8.5 assists. That's kind of intriguing because I don't think he's gonna do that again. I don't know. What lively boards, maybe? Or does Gafford have a line? Oh wow, they dropped it to 12.5. I
Oof.
still might take the under on that. So he finished with 8 points and 3 boards last night in 14 minutes.
What was his series? The series number that I got for him. Let me just pull this up just so the chat has an understanding. So before the series started, I went with Luca under 8.8 assists per game. That feels like a lock at this point. Gafford under 8.5 points per game. He had 8 last night, which is kind of surprising. Kyrie under 24.5 points per game. That's feeling good, feeling great on that. And then Tatum had 5 assists last night, and it's over 5.7 assists per game. I think he's gonna hit that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about any of the Gafford stuff. I would just stay away from him.
Yeah. I think I'll just
taking unders.
I think I'll just do the lively boards. I think we're gonna see more Derek Lively. So they still haven't put Maxi stuff out, which that was the thing I wanted to bet last night because I knew Mac, and he didn't even do too much, but I knew he was going to be out there a bunch. But all right, we'll do that. Porzingis over 20.5 points and rebounds. Tatum over 9.5 boards. Lively over 6.5 boards. 25. Let's go.
So on the Hurley front, yesterday at around the same time, Woj releases a tweet that basically says the Lakers are putting out an all-out blitz to get Dan Hurley.
Yeah, I talked to. I think they have like context for it just because I talked about it a lot yesterday.
And it's like, so there's 2 components of this. One, I think it's compelling because the JJ to the Lakers stuff has been brewing for a month and a half, basically. And he's been interviewing assistants, like pretty openly. That's been known. It's been reported in multiple places that JJ was interviewing. I wonder 2 things here. I wonder if the Lakers, who are notoriously cheap when it comes to coaches, y'all remember the Ty Lue thing from a couple years ago.
Right.
Why they ended up with Darvin Ham was they didn't want to offer Ty Lue pretty reasonable money, what is definitely reasonable money in today's coaching market. And maybe they just didn't want to pay JJ the money that he was asking for.
Yeah, maybe, but my first thought with that is that they're going to have to pay Hurley similar money, I think, because they're going to have to get the Hurley package. I'd almost argue they're going to pay Hurley more than JJ because he's already in the cushy gig. Like, I think it's going to take a lot to pry him out of UConn. But no, I hear your point, though. I hear your point.
And then the other part of this is the Woj Shams piece, which
Yeah.
I referenced in the Discord. And it's like, so Shams has this tweet where he was basically like, hey, they're zeroing in on JJ Redick as their next head coach. 2 days later, basically, we get the Hurley announcement, and ESPN.com had 3 pieces ready.
Yeah. I also.
That,
Go ahead.
I'm just to finish up the point. That gives me an indication the Lakers leaked this to Woj
Yeah.
on Thursday.
Yeah, and I shared this clip yesterday, but JJ was on like the Golick and Golick show or whatever,
Yep.
where and he was right. I think it's Golick and who
It's
does he?
Golic.
Yeah, he does it with his
I
kid.
think that the name of the show is Golic and Gojo.
Okay,
Yeah.
and JJ basically says at the end, he's like, "We'll deal with Shams after the finals," and so that makes me wonder, like maybe there was a little bit more something to it. Go ahead.
Well, what I would say is I think the Lakers leaked. I don't know if in bad faith something happened here
Yeah,
where like someone on the Lakers leaked it to Shams and maybe like they hadn't finished negotiating and
yeah.
maybe JJ got cold feet and he was like, look, if you guys are this is how the organization is gonna deal with this, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, and what I don't, and I feel like not enough people are talking about this. This is like the weirdest thing to me. Like, I don't understand how this was their number one candidate all along, and you interviewed 5 other people already. Like, none of that passes a smell test. Like that now all of a sudden, like the Lakers are just learning now that it's beneficial to develop young talent. That Palinka just figured that out. Like, I don't know, all of the reporting around it just seemed batshit the whole time. And I just was like, none of this makes sense. And it maybe, like, I do agree with the part that either like maybe they're using this as a negotiation tactic, but like, what it makes no sense to be like, this was our number one candidate the whole time after. Then what the fuck were you doing with everybody else? Like, why is this how you target your number one candidate by not letting them know? Like, what
For
are
2
you
months.
talking about? Also, and it was announced like that this is happening. We're like, they hadn't even interviewed him yet. They're just saying we're about to drop
him
a
today.
Yes,
For the
that's
first-
what I mean. Like, what is that? I don't understand any of this. I don't get it. I don't. It's just like bad business. I don't. It makes no sense. And what I hope Dan Hurley does, because I read this quote yesterday about how he basically was like, my wife will divorce me if we move. But what I would love if Dan Hurley's like, hey, listen, UConn, you're paying me an extra couple million now. You know, like just use this for leverage.
Yeah, that all that new TV money you got by
Yeah.
switching conferences.
Mhm.
I know it was meant for football, but basketball is a big brain move here, so
Yeah.
pay up.
He
And the
did
other thing I just quickly say on the Hurley front, Dan's a hell of a coach, man. That's obvious based on the championships, but even going back a decade to when he was coaching mid majors, it was so clear that guy was going to be a star.
Yeah.
I think he was coaching like Marist or Siena at the time, something like that. And
Yeah.
like even people like Goodman, Jeff Goodman from who's now I think he's still at Fox or he
Yeah.
has his own pod now. Field of 68. And it's like even Goodman at the time was like, yeah, he's not only going to be a high major, but like an elite high major coach within 5 years. And I do wonder how the program is going to play in an NBA level because we've seen
Yeah.
this fail.
Well, and he's not like, I think about, because again, I was trying to doing this out loud. Who are young or like college coaches recently that have translated well, and it's like Brad Stevens and Quinn Snyder. And when you look at their college coaching career or their college coaching style, it's very different than Dan Hurley because it's more of a calm, measured. Snyder would get fiery, but not at his team, more at like officiating, right? And so that to me translates. But I think if you're Dan Hurley, is a psychopath, and I don't know, and I mean that lovingly. I don't know how that translates to coaching LeBron. AD also had some like choice comments that came out yesterday around this coaching hire. Or the search process. He doesn't seem like too thrilled with it. So I don't know. And then now everyone's like, oh, does this mean LeBron's going to the Suns? That's what I keep hearing.
Dan's an asshole on the court.
Yeah.
Like, for people that haven't watched him in college, there's going to be a bit of a culture shock in watching him interact with the referees.
Yeah.
Like, he goes at officials unlike any coach I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like,
even players, like he goes at players too. I mean, he's like, the clip going around yesterday was fill in the fucking huddle. I think it was. Like, can you imagine him yelling at like D'Angelo Russell? Can you imagine D'Lo responding to? I mean,
Well, I'm
talk
not
about
sure
a
D'Lo is going to be staying with Lakers. He's about to get bad.
the Lakers need D'Lo.
I know.
That's the crazy part. They need D'Lo at this point. So
But look, he's going to opt out of that 17.5 million because he's going to get a bag from someone,
yeah,
probably Detroit or some bullshit. But I look, I will say this on just kind of tying the bow on the Woj Sham stuff with this whole process. I think the interesting thing is JJ is an employee of ESPN, obviously.
right.
I wonder if Woj went to him before the story broke and was like, "Hey, we're running with this today, just so you're aware." And
Yeah.
he can't say anything because he's doing play-by-play of the finals.
Right.
So, and the league is very much not wanting coaching stuff to come out during the finals.
Right. They
The
want
fact that it came out on day one of the finals.
Yeah. It's like remember the Harden Christmas Day thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was more intrigued by, and again, I tweeted something out about this. I don't think this is real. I want to, state that I don't think this is real, but it's obviously a talking point that Shams is with, has he's on FanDuel TV and posts FanDuel stuff, right? And like his reporting moves lines. And so because you can bet on who's going to be the next coach, you can do that shit. And so if you report something like that, and then all of a sudden the lines move aggressively, it's
Mhm.
one thing for him to do it and not have the relationship with FanDuel, but it just makes it a little funky when you have that relationship. And I forget what the other piece, I think it was during the draft, right? Because he was just like dead wrong on a couple of draft things. It was like Scoot going 2 to Charlotte. And again, I don't think that that's really what's happening, but it doesn't look good, especially fresh off of the Jonte.
Well, the other thing with Shams, this is kind of deep diving into his reporting stuff, is the book on him is that he doesn't have great relationships with management types. Like that's Woj's thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's very tight with players, particularly clutch. And like I mean, you saw the Kyrie stuff earlier this week, right? Like how much he tweeted about Kyrie's dad getting that shoe.
Right.
Kind of weird.
Yeah,
Like
a lot.
a little odd. Particularly with someone with his platform to have
I
like
mean, it was a cool story. I thought that was a cool story,
it's
but
a
it
cool
was
story, but like file it as a news piece.
yeah.
It didn't need to be like a 5-tweet thread. And to me, it's just like I think part of the reason why he's getting stuff wrong is teams don't really trust him.
Yeah.
I think. And that's part of the downside of getting as big as he's gotten lately is, teams tend to trust Woj. And I think that's why Woj is getting more stuff right over the last 2 years.
I wonder too, though, it would be hilarious if like where everybody's dunking on him right now, if Woj ends up being wrong and it goes to JJ. I mean, his reporting's right. It looks like they are trying to make an offer for Dan Hurley, but if it ultimately still goes to JJ, would be kind of funny. Somebody asked this yesterday. Do you think if JJ wanted the gig, right, and then they go offer Dan Hurley, Hurley turns it down, do you think JJ is hurt at all by that? Or do you think he would still like, if, he wanted the job, he's still going to take the job?
He wants to be a coach.
Yeah.
He'll take the job. I mean, I think there may be like a real conversation about the money. Snoop Loop, this will be on replay. So
yeah,
live content we can't put on replay, but this show and any of our other shows.
Yeah, any shows that's not showing games. I'm also gonna because for all the finals ones, I'm gonna download it and throw it back onto YouTube as well. So, and it'll be in podcast form also.
So yeah, look, I'm unsure if JJ would actually do it if he just says, "You guys have to give me more money in order for me to do this." Since you guys did a whole PR thing on me, give me an extra $1 million a year.
That would be great.
But we don't know. Like, I think at this stage of the game, is this the only open job? Are there any other?
No. Cleveland.
Cleveland seems pretty like set on who their guys are. It seems like.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like Sam Cassell is going to get a gig, which is kind of disappointing.
I know. I was surprised by that. Let Sammy coach, unless he's a terrible interview. Does he just do a bad job interviewing?
No.
I love Sam.
Like the reporting on Sam is that well liked by players, well liked by most management types. He's been great with the Celtics organization. I can tell you that. People loved him in Philly.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. I think that the shitty thing about it, if we're being honest, is I think there's a race component to it, which sucks. I personally think if he was white, he probably would have been hired 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The fact that we're seeing certain coaches get recycled jobs is always frustrating. Matty Harrison was tough to hire that mug. Come on now.
Yeah.
But you know, otherwise, I want to this quick thing that I saw yesterday. I don't think I mentioned it earlier in the week. Jeff Van Gundy probably going to be added to the staff for the Celtics at the conclusion of this season.
Oh, really? You do get Jeff a ring, baby.
So Jeff's a special assistant to the Celtics right now, and he's still with the Olympic team.
Yeah.
But saw some reporting this week that it looks like Jeff is going to be hired as one of the lead assistants with them losing Charles Lake.
Wow. There we go. That's interesting. There you go. It's a Weiss bomb.
Not even. I mean, I think I saw that from maybe it was Jay King or Jared Weiss.
Yeah.
But yeah. And that's going to be dope. Like, I think having Jeff on staff, Joe's really comfortable with him.
Yeah.
And I think one of the underrated things, you know, just tying everything back to the finals, Joe's gotten so comfortable in this role this year versus last year. And I think it's the most underrated part about this season is while his press conferences might be batshit crazy, he's really gotten so much better as a coach.
Well, but I think like those insane press conferences also just show you that he's more comfortable in his role because you weren't getting that from him last year, and it does. He seems like he understands his job. It seems like the players are comfortable with the role too. I totally agree. I thought he saw like again. I don't think he's a top 5 coach in the league. I'm not going to say that, but he's like far better than he was.
Did you see LeBron calling him a genius earlier this week?
Yeah, but LeBron. I mean, LeBron has to say that now that he's somebody who's winning, right? LeBron has to be like, "Oh, I was in early on Missoula."
Well, I actually thought he was going to compare him to Spo.
Yeah.
Like he nearly said the word. He was like, "He's a lot like," and then he stopped.
Yeah,
he stopped himself mid sentence, but that's where it sounded like he was going. And I was like, "Are you going to do that?
Yeah,
you're going to compare him to a top 5 coach in the league?
You got to relax, Joe. I mean, LeBron, you relax." Any like I don't know predictions going into game 2 as we get ready to wrap up here?
Tatum 25-point double-double. That's
25-point double-double from Tatum. All right. I officially made my pick like reluctantly did it. I think the first time I said it was on I guess I said it on the 89 Cavs. I made myself take a stand and said Celtics in 5. So I am going and in order for that to happen. Yeah, in order for that to happen, they have to win the 2 home games. I think that's the only way that obviously it's I don't think they're winning both games on the road. So
last thing before we finish up here, did you see the guy the Top Shot collector who was like taking photos? Yeah.
Was that a like a VIP thing that he won?
I don't know.
Because I saw he took photos with fucking everyone that's ever been in the NBA.
Got a photo with Mark Cuban.
Yeah, JJ, Shaq,
JJ.
right? Didn't he have one with Shaq too?
Shaq, Wilbon.
Yeah.
I think so. On the photos in the hotel, the only way that makes sense is if he's staying. So here's a little inside baseball for those of you who don't like follow some of the travel stuff within the league. Nearly
for
every
those of you that
team,
don't stock players in hotels.
No, well, I just this is a media thing. Typically, teams stay at the Ritz. If you are like a high-level media person, you're not usually staying at the Ritz. But it looked like for the finals, they were staying at the Ritz in Boston.
Yeah, and Stan with some breaking news in the chat. He is friends with the son of Burton Snowboards.
Oh,
big money Burton. Never heard of it.
So I would assume he's staying at the Ritz then,
Wow.
because that's typically where teams and broadcasters would stay. Because I saw JJ and RJ's pod this morning, and RJ was like, "Yeah, I'm staying at the Broke Hotel. You would get the very, very nice hotel," which I assume is probably the Ritz. So
Wow.
yeah, I assume that Colton is staying at the Ritz then. That's the only thing that makes sense.
I haven't watched the JJ RJ one this morning, but I have been enjoying. They're fun together. They are fun together.
Yeah, and look, RJ just joined 342
Right.
as part of, like, basically they combined Road Tripping, which is their pod,
Right.
and 342 Productions, and that's gonna be great. I think RJ is fantastic. Channing Frye, how do you feel? Like, I'm kind of 50-50 on Channing.
I do. I enjoy Channing. I think Channing needs to be surrounded by good people, but I'm not like out on Channing Frye. Mainly, I do. I mean, he made Brandon Soul look like a baller when he lost to him in knockout at Summer League.
So I shot first for that.
Wow.
I would, so
You're like the
Channing was like, "Hey man, do you want to shoot first, or do you want to shoot second?" And I was like, "I want to shoot second so I can knock you out."
yeah, and it didn't happen.
He drained the three, and then what's her face from what's the breaker site?
Oh yeah. Did they still do stuff?
Yeah, they're still breaking on Twitch.
Yeah.
But she was like, she goes, "Weisberg, I'm gonna knock you out," and I was like, "All right, whatever, bullshit." So my three goes long because we were shooting from 3-point line. She drains it right away, and she
Nice.
just turns around and goes, "I played D1
Solo? Is that her name? Solo?
solo." Yeah,
Yeah. That was fun.
tough
Dude.
luck.
Moment in time. Boston Base, the only thing I was just about to say, it seemed like everybody was mad at Top Shot again yesterday, which means maybe we're back. I saw that they doing more. There's just Anthos. You can get some Steph Currys are out there. Some Larry Birds are out there.
Hey, you got to pay off a $4 million settlement somehow, right?
Now, honestly, I'm usually not pro Mets tweets.
That was a great fucking tweet by
Mets was really funny. And then I saw people were mad about the leaderboard, but not Veerman. Veerman liked it. You're not going to believe it. Veerman liked it.
Veerman liked it, and JJO liked it because JJ.
There we go. Yeah, but JJ's the GOAT. JJ can do whatever
I
you
know.
want, baby. I need to go back. I saw Tandy was on Connecting and Collecting, so I gotta go check out. I gotta go check that out. But
Wow,
hey, listen,
Tandy doing multiple podcasts in a day. Shocking.
that's right. Weisberg, thank you for getting up early and coming on. This was fun. Just a reminder, real quick, go check out Buckets and Tea. I'll probably go retweet it. Tesla was telling us that was live. I haven't seen it yet. But I had a really fun conversation yesterday talking about just about everything. We talked about everything. So go check that out. We'll be back at 3 p.m. for some vroom vroom, a little F1 action. And then I think I'm going to fire up a happy hour later this afternoon and draft some best ball. And then on Sunday, yeah, dude, these tweets are brutal, man. I'm almost feeling bad for Embiid now. Boston Base just said Luke Cornett got more points in the finals than Embiid.
I mean, it's so tough. The Embiid stuff's so tough.
It's brutal. But I hope everybody has a good rest of the day. Thanks for tuning in. And then we'll be back again on Sunday for game 2, baby. Common Man and Keith Tucker, thanks for watching. I know it's like two Celtics fans talking about Celtics Mavs.
Not ideal.
I know, but I appreciate you guys being here. And Weisberg's the homer. I try to be a little bit more down the middle for you guys.
I'm relentless.
But I hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you a little bit later this afternoon. Thanks again, Weisberg. We're out of here.